Hi, this is Mitch Mitchell of TT Mitchell Consulting. This week, I actually hit an interesting plateau where I had my 1,100th blog post on Mitch's blog. And the majority of the articles over the course of the last 8 years or so have been on the topic of leadership. I've had a lot of conversations on diversity and employee relations and customer service, healthcare finance, because these are all things I do. But I had someone ask me on Facebook what types of things I've learned during the time that I've been writing the blog. And I had to think about that because I didn't want to mix certain other things that I've learned beforehand with different types of things I've learned during the time that I've written the blog. So I'm going to share three things that I think I've learned or reinforced during that time period. The first thing I've learned is that you have to have a little bit of stick-to-itiveness. I'm not exactly sure how you say that word. In other words, I had a time period there during the course of this blog where I could have quit. I was about 165 posts in when the host I was using at the time totally crashed. And at that time, I thought, you know what, maybe blogging isn't for me. I didn't have almost any comments on anything, whatever. I really didn't understand the blogging thing all that well. But I decided to stick with it, to go and see if I could find all those posts and put them back on there. Because truthfully, how can you talk about leadership if you're ready to quit just because something got in the way? And I tell a lot of people that, when you feel as though you don't have any further to go, maybe it's time for a change. But if you can't honestly say that you've reached that point, that you haven't learned everything that you need to learn, or you haven't given it your very best, or you haven't really stuck with anything for so long, just up and quitting isn't an option, or at least it shouldn't be. So I think that's one major thing that I've kind of learned over this time. The second thing that I think I've learned is how to better motivate people. I thought all those years when I was a director that I was doing a pretty good job of motivating people, and I still stick with that. But when they're not people who actually work for you, people who, well, for lack of a better term, they have to listen to you. They may not fully, embrace everything you say, but they pretty much have to listen to you when they report to you. But when you're outside and people don't actually have to listen to you, you find that there's different ways that you talk to people. And if you want cooperation, if you want people to deal with you on a longer term, you find new ways of talking to people. And, it goes both ways. You sometimes get offended a little quicker because you're not used to people who kind of want to talk back. But at the same time, you realize that, these aren't people who are just going to defer because you said something. And so you learn a different way of communicating with people. And for the most part, I like to think I've been pretty successful. Well, it's certainly not perfect. One of the things you find out is that, when people don't report to you, they, sometimes just want to argue and argue and argue. And it's in those times where you have to decide, okay, is it worth continuing this, or is it time to move on? And so you don't force people into anything. If people don't want to change behaviors, if people don't want to follow through with something, fine and dandy. You move on. And that's been an important lesson over these years. As an independent contractor, you take a lot of jobs, but a lot of people are scared to turn jobs down. I have turned some jobs down. I've ended some contracts here and there. You have to be strong enough and have enough integrity to do that. The third thing that I've reinforced, I can't say this is totally new, but I've done this a lot, and I find that it works, which is to praise other people, thank other people for doing a good job. When you're a consultant, sometimes you're called in to be the person to answer everything, to find all the answers, to help people out. Sometimes you're there just in a supporting role, where you come in and, you're just kind of part of the crowd and, you're doing a certain project and you see other things. And one of the things that you find out is that no matter which role you're in, whether you're in leadership or support, people will eventually come and talk to you. And people will share their questions, and people will share some of the problems that they're having. And it puts you in a unique position because, even if you're in a leadership position, sometimes there's just certain things you really can't, get rid of, or you can't just totally take care of because you're not the person in charge of those certain things. You're in charge of your own, little area. But I have found that whenever you can help people, one of the things you do is you praise people. You always find something good about someone to say. And if it's a project that you're working on, you always praise them for the steps that they're taking in working with you. Because you know what? Trust me, no one ever has to work with you as an independent consultant. Now, I say that knowing that, they actually do have to work with you. But no one says that they have to voluntarily give their best. You hope that they do, but no one says that they have to. And I have found that for the most part, people will give you their best if you can communicate with them and say nice things to them. Carol Burnett used to do that all the time. And I remember some years ago when I was working in New York City in a very tough environment. They brought me in, and I realized I was being brought in because everyone in the office was black and I was black. But there was a major debate between management and the employees. And the employees in New York City had a very strong union, and it was ugly. And so pretty much for like the first month, almost no one talked to me. But as time went on and I kept finding my ways to communicate, I got a few people on my side, just broke through. And even though the union had told them, don't trust management, don't trust this guy and whatever, they did. And it worked out well. And we did have a nice working relationship. And, it really is that kind of thing where, other people were alienating them. And I told them, I looked at certain things and I gave them praise. Now, I was not being phony when I was giving it. These were people who knew their jobs. And the people they were fighting with didn't know the job that they did. So, as I was seeing it on a daily basis, I was able to say, well, you're good at this and this, whatever. And, it works out. People like being encouraged. So those are probably the three biggest things that I've learned over these years that I've been writing the blog. And if you look at a lot of the blog posts that I have, I talk about a lot of different work situations, things that I've gone through or things that other people have gone through. And I make a lot of recommendations, and I've helped a lot of people along the way, and I've really helped myself a lot. I think that, when you go into situations like this, if you're not learning certain ways to do your job better, then, you're just wasting opportunities. Anyway, that's all I had to say for this one here. I hope you go check out the blog post. I've given you the link down below, 1100. Not a lot of people write 1100 blog posts. Of course, I still have to catch up with my other blog where I'm working on my way up to 1500, but that's a tale for a different time. Anyway, like I said, this is Mitch Mitchell of TT Mitchell Consulting, aka Mitch's blog. I hope you have a wonderful day.